Hey, welcome to another edition of Kyle Meredith with. It's the interview series presented by WFPK at WFPK.org, Consequence, and the Consequence Podcast Network. Thanks as always for making your way here for checking out the series. Hit that subscribe button so you can keep up with all the interviews that I put out every single week. You get a new one every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 3 a week to keep you up to date on your favorite artists and discover those new ones. Of course, you can grab us anywhere in podcast land as well. Spotify, Apple Podcast, NPR, WFPK.org, Consequence, or of course, right here on YouTube. Anywhere you get your podcast from, you can subscribe to Kyle Meredith with. That's me, Kyle Meredith, today catching up with Suzanne Vega. In fact, we actually shot this backstage at Bourbon and Beyond right here in Louisville, Kentucky in 2024. So Suzanne had just released a brand new song called Rats, inspired by Ramones and Fontaines DC, and sort of linked up with the very first International Rat Summit, a real thing in New York. So we discussed that. We talk about all the ways that she sort of put New York into her songs throughout the years. And why that just keeps happening. Probably for obvious reasons. She lives in New York. But we also talk about the live shows she's been playing with her guitarist, Gerry Leonard. Gerry had played with Bowie back in the day. His influence, I think, is really felt on this new single. And get this, Suzanne last released a record in 2016. She says we got one coming next year. So we're going to hear a little bit about that and how maybe coincidentally it arrives, or if it will arrive on the 40th anniversary of her debut album. All that and more. It's Kyle Meredith with Suzanne Vega. Hey, welcome to another edition of Kyle Meredith with here at Bourbon and Beyond, Louisville, Kentucky. Suzanne Vega, hello.
Hi.
It's great to see you again. We got to talk just a few years ago. You released a live album, beautiful live album. That was it the Carlisle?
The Carlisle, yeah.
Yeah, and now you're on tour. What do you? So is this you workshopping the new songs? Is that kind of what's going on a little bit?
Workshopping some of the new songs. One of them was actually released to radio this week. So some songs are beyond workshopping. So the whole album is supposed to come out probably in the spring of next year.
And that's so exciting.
Yeah.
I know it's been a few years now, but
Yeah.
but seeing, some artists are afraid of that, of course, going on the road and just kind of playing some of the new stuff ahead of time. But yeah, that's what the tour, it was like new songs, old songs, and
Other songs.
other songs. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So we do it proportionally. Like a festival like this one, we're probably not going to do a new song. We'll just kind of come out with the songs everybody knows and loves. So, but the rest of the tour is, we work it in depending on where we are.
Yeah, which is, I love seeing that, and I love seeing that, you're still playing. I was looking for his name here, Gerry Leonard. Of course, you've been with now for
More than 20 years.
20 years,
Yeah.
okay. I knew it was at least a decade because he came off of the Bowie stuff, and I guess you guys were sharing them there for a little bit.
Yes, that's right. That's right. When I met David Bowie, I said something like, "When he's not yours, he's mine." So that was witty. Gerry and I met over the Songs in Red and Gray album.
Yeah. I know his style of playing, and the new song you're alluding to, which I want to ask about in a minute with Rats, like you can hear, like, what does he bring to you? Because his style seems so interesting and so specific.
Yes and no.
Okay.
It is interesting. It's specific in that, I can throw any kind of song genre at him, and he can respond to it and play an appropriate production just by himself with all of his loops and his pedals. So we can do a song like Blood Makes Noise, which is, I don't know what you call that, industrial folk. We can do really folky Irish sounding things. We can do anything. I can jazz things that sound like jazz. Gerry can do that.
Yeah, it's what he brings to. But like when you're writing, then, do you guys talk about that when you're writing? I don't know if you write with him. I think I'm taking some assumptions right there because he's been with you so long.
Sometimes I do, and sometimes I don't. There are times where I just sit in my room and write.
Yeah.
As I've always done. But lately we've been having what we call writing sessions. So we'll get together in a room and play music. So for this song, Rats, we were listening to the Ramones. I can't remember which particular song, and we were listening to Fontaines DC.
Fontaines, yeah.
There was a song called Televised Mind, which I just really loved. I found it really mesmerizing, and so that turned out to be Rats. I had some phrases I wanted to try out, and we just started kind of playing around, and this is what was the result.
And so this song, first off, it comes out at a nice time because it's got this sound that I sort of works for the Halloween season if you want it to. But
I had not thought of that, but I think you're right. It's kind of scary and creepy.
It's got that there. But so what the whole backstory? There was a rat summit that just happened.
Well, the funny thing is I wrote the song last year, and then in the spring I heard about this rat summit. The first day was yesterday. The second day is today in New York City. It's the inaugural International Rat Summit in New York City. So I thought it was going to be a really big deal. I think I've seen maybe one newspaper article about it. So I was
CNN.
ready.
I saw it on the news.
Oh, you did?
That's where I saw it. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and your press release. So
it was in my press release. So that's why we timed. It would be silly to have a song called Rats and then have it come out 6 months from now, and people going, "Why didn't you release it before?" So we released it now because why not? Yeah.
Yeah. Right. It's. I love that. I love the way you've written about life in New York in so many different ways, and now this is where you arrive. Because if I've been, spend a lot of my time in New York, and it's just part of the scene. One running across, I'll never forget. I want to say it was Tompkins Park.
Tompkins Square
was
Park,
like
yeah.
a rat kingdom.
Rat Kingdom, yeah. I've seen those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was just like holes everywhere, and just like families and families.
Families
Yeah.
of rats. That's exactly right. I saw a little rat playground the other day in Central Park. A bunch of teenage rats hanging around, as they would
Did
do.
they have a boombox on their shoulder?
Yeah, kind of. You almost expect it. So that's what's going on in New York.
I feel like maybe this is an obvious question here, but New York as a woman and all the ones. I mean, you could build a musical, I think, out of what you've written about. It's like, what is it that keeps inspiring you to kind of pluck from life from the city?
Well, I mean, I live there,
Yeah.
right? If I lived in Nashville, or if I'd grown up in a different place, maybe I'd have a slightly different flavor. But because I have lived there and I know it so well, I know its problem areas, I know its beautiful parts. And so I just find it's constantly speaking to me, and so I respond, and I write because I live there.
I remember the last time we talked we were talking about just the loss of diners, and that has stuck with me. Just
The
that
loss
little
of diners, yeah.
Yeah, it's gone away, and now I've become the old man shouting at the clouds, but around here, because yeah. But I love that vision just of the city, because not everybody, I think, uses a sense of place in the same way that you're able to do, and it's.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. I mean, I love diners, and as a kid, a diner was like a safe place you could kind of go to, and as long as you had, back then it was like 35 cents if you want a cup of coffee, if you drank coffee, you could go hang out there for 2 hours and kill time or hang with your friends. So there was that. But also, the diners all have this sense of history. The really good ones have that 50s feel, sometimes 30s, sometimes 40s, which I love. I love to see a bit of the history in the city.
Yeah, those old photos that pop up online all the time, and
Yeah.
those are the ones where the diners where you could just go to the window and you pulled out. I forget what they were called.
Horn and Hard Art.
Yeah.
Yeah, I when I was very young, I actually used to go. There was one in Times Square,
Right.
and I
That's
used
the
to
one I was
go
thinking
there
of.
and get
Yeah.
pie, and it would cost a nickel, and you could open the little window and get pie.
Just right there.
I did that.
I didn't
I'm
get
that
to partake
old,
like that. Yeah. So, I don't know, what can you say about the new album? Because again, this is, I think, the first one since I want to say 2016. So we're coming up on that decade.
Yeah.
Has it changed just like the importance of, because when you're a young artist, I want to say, like you pump them out, you crank them out. Like, at what point does that become less important? Is that what happens?
Well, life intervenes. And in this case, we had a lot of life happen between 2016 and now. All kinds of things, personal things, things like COVID, which I was not one of those people who was like, here I am at home. I'm going to relax and write some songs. I was very anxious. I was constantly monitoring the news. I was cleaning my house. It just got a little neurotic because you don't know how this virus gets in. So I was one of those people. So now that that's passed a little bit, I feel a kind of urgency to write these songs, and so they're all coming out now. But I don't rush it because I have a life I'm living, and that kind of takes precedence.
That's important.
Yeah.
And it's been for probably 10 or 15 years now that I think people talk about mental health and they talk about life, as a musician and how to take care of yourself. But that wasn't always the case. And the fact that people are so forgiving of that now. Because it was like, you've been gone for 3 years, you're done.
Yeah, but, not all the time. I mean, some people just continue. And I'm one of them. And there are other, look at Patti Smith. I mean, she's still doing great, and she's been around a long time, and she's a real role model for me in some ways.
You guys run into each other at the
sure.
cafes?
We run into each other, weirdly, at the courthouse. I went down because my husband had to do jury duty, and 4 people ahead of me was Patti Smith. And I'm like, hey, Patti. And she's like, okay, hi. I was cool. I didn't go over and bother her, but I thought, what a strange place to run into
Someone
Patti
like
Smith.
That. Yeah, that's New York.
That's New York.
That's New York right there.
Yeah.
I don't know. So we've heard Rats. I know all of your records, like, there's not one definitive sound, but, like, is that representative in any way? Like, what should we expect this record to sound like?
Good question. It has turned out to be a bunch of different genres, and each one is almost clearly defined. The next song we're likely to put out is a song called Speaker's Corner, and that's sort of what I'd call more like a AAA song. It almost has like a California feel from the 70s. It's kind of upbeat and acoustic, but kind of like folk rock. There's a very folky song called Galway. So we've got the gamut there. There's folk rock, there's folk, there's one song that sounds to me a bit like Motown. It's like, that's a new area for me. I'm really looking forward to doing that one. So it's like an album of different genres.
Everything we want.
That's right.
All in one.
And more.
And more. It will arrive on the 40th anniversary of your first album, right? Is that right?
I hadn't thought of that.
Or 85.
Yeah, 85.
Yeah.
Oh, how clever you
look at
are.
that.
I did not know. I didn't even think of that.
It's been this long, and it's going to land on the 40th anniversary. So
that's so cool.
You can just do with that information what you wish.
I will. I'll tell everybody. We better get it done by then, too. That's now I've got even a new deadline to make. But yes, that's about right.
Does your practice in Duolingo find its way into this new album at all?
Kind of. There is a song I wrote, a little song I sing for the French audiences. And I think it's really cute, and I have to find a way to record it, because I'd love to put that on the album. Yeah.
That'd be fun.
Thanks for reminding me. I need to talk to Gerry
what I'm here
about
for.
that. Yes. Thank you.
Well, I'm so excited to hear this record, and Rats is so fun and perfect for the Halloween season, for all that it is.
Thank you.
So thank you so much for dropping by.
Thank you. My pleasure.
And thanks to my guest. Also, thanks to you for checking out the episode in the series. Before you get out of here, hit that subscribe button. Again, you get 3 brand new interviews every single week. New one every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at right here on YouTube, or of course anywhere in podcast land, including iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podchaser, NPR, or WFPK.org as well. A great way to keep up with your favorite artists and discover new ones as well. Then after that, actually head over to WFPK.org. That's where I do a show Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern. It's an hour full of song premieres, music news, anniversary spins, bonus interviews, Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern at WFPK.org. Consequence has your music and film news. You can also find me on the social media spots, Facebook, Instagram, mostly on Twitter. All 3 of them, the address is at Kyle Meredith. Do hope you like and follow along. That does it for another edition. I'm Kyle Meredith. I'll see you next time.